I used to believe the corporate world was built on hard work and integrity. Turns out it's not. It's a place where power is abused behind closed doors, where the wrong people rise for the worst reasons. Back then, I was just a mid-level engineer, nothing special. I worked at a manufacturing company in the Midwest. We had offices all across the state, and I was always traveling between them. My life was simple: projects, deadlines, lunch at my desk, and honestly, I was fine with that. Until I met Danielle. She worked at one of our smaller offices, smart, quietly confident. She didn't try to stand out, but you noticed her anyway. What started as friendly chats turned into something more. We kept it private, discreet, because in our company, even something innocent could be used against you, especially by him. His name was Carter Maddox, our regional manager, a textbook control freak wrapped in expensive suits and fake charm. He didn't manage the office, he ruled it. He micromanaged everything, even how long people took in the break room. But the worst part, he liked messing with people. He called it fun, we called it toxic. And Carter had a secret. Everyone knew about it, but no one talked. He had this obsession with photography, not art, not scenery. He took photo of himself and of women, private moments. Then he'd show those photos around, laughing, bragging, like it was just another inside joke. Even while his wife Claire worked down the hall in HR, she had no idea, or maybe she did, and just couldn't prove it. Either way, no one dared to cross Carter until one day he found out about, me and Danielle. I never told him, but someone must have talked, because suddenly he started making little comments. Sightsee's got a nice view, huh? That project manager girl? She's cute. He smiled when he said it, but his eyes were cold. I ignored it at first. Then Danielle called me late one night. She was crying. Carter had visited her office, said he wanted to review her reports. But he didn't want reports. He wanted her. He made a move. She turned him down. And just like that, she was gone. 3 days later, fired. No warning, no explanation, just budget cuts. I knew what it was. She knew too. And something in me snapped. I could have stayed quiet, kept my job, moved on, but I couldn't. Not when she looked at me like that. Like I had the power to fix it. She didn't ask for revenge, but I wanted justice. And I knew. Carter kept his secrets close, too risky to bring them home. That meant they had to be in his office, and one day I was going to find them. I just had to wait for the right moment. A few weeks went by. Carter didn't mention Danielle again. Didn't need to. He'd made his move. He'd gotten away with it. Everyone else moved on, but I didn't. Every time I walked past his office, I imagined what was in those drawers, what he kept hidden. I remembered the way he laughed with his buddies like nothing could touch him, like he was untouchable. And I kept thinking about Danielle, how she blamed herself even though she did nothing wrong, how she had to pack up her things in silence while Carter strutted through the hallway. I had to be careful. I couldn't just break in. I needed a real plan. Then one Saturday, it all lined up. I was scheduled to work overtime, a few hours alone in the building, and I remembered something. And on weekends, the cleaning crew comes through. They have keys. They unlock every office to vacuum dust, take out the trash, including Carter's. That was my chance. So I waited. Stayed at my desk, pretended to review drawings and blueprints, and right on time, yeah, she arrived, the cleaning lady, just doing her job. She was kind, said hello, told me she needed to get into Carter's office. I said no problem, followed her down the hallway. She unlocked the door, rolled in her cart, vacuumed the floor, emptied the bin. Then she turned to me and said, "Just close the door when you're done." That was it. She trusted me, didn't ask questions, walked away. Now it was just me in Carter's office. The moment I stepped inside, the air felt colder, cleaner. Too clean. His desk was immaculate. Not a paper out of place, everything lined up like a showroom. But I knew he was hiding something. I started slow, pulled open the top drawers, pens, paper clips, company folders. Middle drawer locked. Figures. Bottom drawer also locked, but the cabinet on the side unlocked. I opened it. Inside were some old notebooks, manuals, a few USB drives, but tucked way in the back behind a row of outdated reports was a small black box. Not labeled, not locked. I slid it out, set it on the desk. I opened the lid, and there they were, photos. Stacks of them. Thick, glossy prints, sorted by date, each one worse than the last. Women. Some I recognized, most I didn't. And Carter always in the shot, always smiling. No shame. It was disgusting, but also it was gold. I had what I needed, more than enough, but I didn't take the whole box. No, that would have been too obvious. Instead, I took a dozen, the ones that showed him clearly. His face, his ring, his tattoos, with women who clearly weren't his wife. Some had dark hair, some red, all of them not Claire. I slid the box back, closed everything, tidied up, and I left. Yeah, I didn't sleep much that night. I kept playing it over in my head, what I saw, what I held in my hands. I knew what I was about to do, and once I did it, there was no going back. But I didn't hesitate, not once. Sunday morning, I laid the photos out on my kitchen table, one by one. 12 of them, each one a nail in Carter's coffin. I sorted them carefully, no duplicates, no confusion. Then I pulled out a plain envelope, no logo, no markings, no fingerprints. I slid the photos inside, sealed the flap, and wrote only one thing on the front. Claire Maddox, Carter's wife, the woman who worked just down the hall. I didn't write a note, didn't sign a name. The photos were enough. She'd know what they meant. She'd see what he was. Then I got in my car, drove 2 hours. I didn't want to mail it from anywhere near my office, too risky. So I picked a small town near where I knew they lived, pulled into a post office off the highway. No cameras, no one around. I dropped the envelope in the slot, just like that. Gone. It felt quiet. Too quiet. But it was done. I drove home. Didn't call anyone. Didn't tell Danielle. Not yet. I just waited. And then it happened. It started with whispers. Carter missed a meeting. His wife didn't come into work. Then came the shouting. 2 floors down in HR. The next day, Carter's office was locked. For good. His nameplate gone. They said he was on leave, that he'd stepped down for personal reasons. But everyone knew. Everyone saw the storm. And no one dared to ask questions. Claire filed for divorce fast, her lawyer relentless. Word spread not just about the cheating, but about the photos. About the other women, the misconduct, the hush money. Everything came out. And Carter, he lost it all. His job, his marriage, his power. And for once, he couldn't control the outcome. Weeks passed, then months. And just like that, Carter Maddox became a name nobody said out loud anymore. His picture came off the hallway wall. His office sat empty for a while, then quietly reassigned. New leadership came in. New rules, a different tone. The place felt lighter. No more games. No more fear. People actually laughed at lunch again. But for me, it wasn't just about the office. It was about Danielle. After everything, she still hadn't found another job. She was trying, but that firing it followed her. People asked too many questions. They didn't like the lack of references, didn't understand the silence. And she didn't want to explain. Would you? So one night, I told her everything. How I found the photos, how I mailed them, how I made sure he couldn't touch anyone ever again. She stared at me for a long time. Then she said, "You did that. For me." I just nodded. She didn't say anything else. She didn't need to. She just reached out, took my hand, and held on. Life didn't magically fix itself. It took time. Rebuilding trust, rebuilding her confidence. But we did it together. She went back to school, got certified in something she loved. And me, I stayed with the company a little longer. Long enough to make sure things truly changed. Then one day I walked into my manager's office and turned in my resignation. No drama, no speech, just peace. I left on my own terms. A year later, Danielle and I got married, a small ceremony, close friends, no one from work. We didn't want reminders. We just wanted something clean, something honest. We stood under a string of backyard lights, said vows, laughed, cried, and in that moment, everything made sense. The pain, the patience, the plan. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about taking back power from someone who used it to hurt others. It was about doing what was right when no one else would. And most of all, it was about love. Because sometimes when the world feels cruel and unfair, The strongest thing you can do is protect the person you love. Even if it costs you everything, I thought it would end there. That once Carter was out, the damage he caused would disappear with him. But trauma doesn't vanish just because the villain is gone. It lingers, in little things, in silence, in doubt. There were still days when Danielle would flinch if her phone rang late. Still moments when she'd check her rearview mirror twice before pulling out of the driveway. We didn't talk about it much, but I knew. And she knew I knew. Some scars don't bleed, they just stay. A few months after we got married, she got an email from someone she used to work with. One of the women from the photos, unmistakable. She didn't say much, just 4 lines. Thank you. I don't know how it happened, but I know someone finally stopped him. I hope you're okay. Danielle showed me the message. Her hands were shaking, and then for the first time in months, she cried. Not out of pain, but release. It was the first time she knew she wasn't alone, that others had suffered too, and that someone out there had noticed. That meant something to both of us. Carter didn't go to jail. There were whispers of a settlement, a quiet agreement, a non-disclosure, but it didn't matter anymore. His reputation was ruined, his network gone. Last I heard, he'd moved out of state, new name, new job. Probably thought he could start over, pretend he was someone else. But people like him, they don't change. They just hide better. Every so often, when I pass that old building, I think about who's sitting in his office now. I wonder if they know what happened in there, if they can feel it, the echo of what once was. But mostly I think about what it taught me. That silence is dangerous. That power unchecked becomes poison. And that love, real love, sometimes means becoming the storm to protect someone from it. Would I do it all again? Yes. Even if no one thanked me, even if no one knew. Because the truth is, justice doesn't always look like a courtroom. Sometimes it's just a plain envelope, like with no return address.